Hello, everyone. Welcome to our week 3 of the Chilton Public Library's participation in the ConnectWell Healthy Eating Challenge. So last week we talked about lunches. And while you guys are talking about we're going to talk about lunches. While we're talking about them, I'm going to prepare our healthy meal tonight so that it is done cooking by the time we get to about 10 to 6. So how did it all go for you guys this week? Did anyone have any really good successes? So it went well. Were there any particular dishes that you made or?
I just went with brown rice with grilled chicken and vegetables and just a side of fruit. The fruit, as we were talking earlier, was kind of difficult. I just went with some of the frozen mixture that I bought for my fruit.
Has anybody else found that that one of the 4 elements was harder for them to incorporate into their meal for dinner? I found the same thing as Amy did. I found that the fruit was a challenge.
I think I have a hard time getting all of it in. I either do fruit or protein and forget the other, one way or the other. So it's a lot of thinking, and it's a lot easier just to grab something you have in the refrigerator and do it.
It is. I am a convenience person, so I get exactly where you're at. As I pour these frozen pre-cut vegetables onto my roasting pan.
We roasted vegetables and added them to our tacos, or just put roasted vegetables in the tortilla and rolled that up.
Nice.
Yeah.
That tasted good, and we used Greek yogurt instead of sour cream. And I do my frozen blueberries with my yogurt, so I can try and get that protein in from the yogurt and put the frozen blueberries and some nuts.
I love frozen blueberries in yogurt, and they get little crunchy.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yep. Because I just rinsed them under the sink, and they were basically frozen in my bowl, and then put the yogurt on it,
Yeah.
and then added some nut mixture on top, and that worked out well.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
For lunch.
Sure. Can you try that?
Yeah. I mean, for our program later tonight, we are doing Cook the Book, and one of the dishes will be a breakfast for dinner on there. So I am looking forward to our breakfast for dinner because I got to sample it, and it was really good. So we are just prepping a basic sheet pan meal. So I'm using just a avocado oil on there, and we are going to actually talk about healthy fats a little bit more in depth tonight. And then just some frozen broccoli, some frozen sweet potatoes. So the sweet potatoes count as our grain, and our broccoli is our vegetable. I have frozen fruit in the fridge that we could pull out. And now I'm just going to put that in my oven here for 20 minutes.
Fresh fruit.
I just didn't have fresh fruit with me.
Oh, okay.
I have frozen fruit in the freezer for when I do my breakfast here at work. And so it's easy to just pull. I don't have to worry that if I forgot about it or I'm off for a week and then suddenly, there's rotting fruit in the staff fridge. So I try to remember and not have. Right now the fridge is full of all the stuff from between these classes and our Cook the Book. We've been pretty busy. So it sounds like everybody's been doing pretty well though for our last 2 weeks. So as I said, this week we are going to be looking at healthy dinners. And I'm just going to move over for our people online as well, just so that everybody can see. There we go. And everybody here should have the packet of these handouts. So our components of a healthy dinner are pretty much the same as the components of our healthy lunch. So we are going to have our plate divided into groups of 4 with our protein, our grain, our whole grain, our fruits, and our vegetables. And they were able to incorporate their fruits onto their plate pretty well, and I guess that's how I imagine it. But it's one of those things that I'm still like trying to like break through, like how I grew up. We didn't have we just wouldn't have fruit on a side for our meals unless it was like a treat. Yes, so it could be your dessert on there. So dinner, just as like lunch is, like it's easy to want to skip a meal. Sometimes you don't necessarily feel like you need it. And dinner is that like last meal that is going to power you through like your longest period of the 24 hours. So even while you are sleeping, right, this meal is going to keep you sustained while you're sleeping on there. So you just kind of want to make sure, as we did with our lunches, things to consider, right? We want to consider our protein, our vegetables, like our whole grains, and our healthy fats and oils, and our fruit. These are all things that we saw in our paperwork last week. But right, we've talked a lot. We did talk about protein a lot, but fruits and vegetables is, and as we said, some of us are really struggling with that fruit part, especially. And that's half of our plate is the combination between of fruits and vegetables. And we really want to be able to get a diversity in the nutrients that we're getting, and that's why we're not just doubling up on the vegetables and having two different sets of veggies versus having fruits and vegetables, because each one will provide different nutrients on there. Right? Vegetables are usually pretty easy for us all to recognize, right? We get a lot of calcium, magnesium, potassium, all those kind of things that we are looking for. Our fruits, what is really nice, and we've talked about it a lot, is the avocados does fall under a fruit. So it has that healthy fat in there. It can count as a fruit. So you could make a like an avocado salad. There is a salad that Amy and I have both had that has like a ricotta cheese in there. So we could maybe use like a cottage cheese or something, like a high protein cheese in there, and or like a fresh mozzarella, and tomatoes and avocado it's like amazing on there. I've also seen one of the restaurants in town here takes avocado, and it is a cold dish, and they take cooked shrimp and they dice that up with like bell peppers and tomatoes and the avocado, and so they scoop it out and then they serve it in that dish. So you get your protein, you have your fruit, you have your vegetable right in there. You can add so you could add like maybe some rice, mixed rice in there with that, or some quinoa as well. And now you have all 4 items in that one dish, and that one dish is amazing if you have not had a chance to try it. Protein can be where some people struggle. That's usually mine. I usually end up filling up with carbs instead of protein. So we do want to make sure that we do get enough. And the research about like how much people are supposed to consume, that is kind of an ongoing, nobody's really kind of decided fully and settled on like an actual like definitive, let's just keep it here. So in our packet, there is a section that does talk about at least what is the current dietary allowance for protein. And so for average women of 19 to 70, we should try to get an average of 46 grams a day, where men at 19 to 70 are looking for an average of 56 grams. There is a lot online in regards to whether or not like high protein diets are the way to go, like to help you lose weight, because the idea is more protein, you're going to feel full more and longer, so that you won't necessarily want to binge eat later on. So once again, let's consult with your doctor in regards to what would be the recommended protein consumption that you should be looking at. So those are averages that we should look at, but your doctor can tell you specifically, like if he or she wants you to be consuming more or less, depending upon your dietary needs. And you can always find that information on that nutritional label that we looked at in week 1. Most of our examples, kind of like a 1 cup of milk has 8 grams of protein, right? A 3-ounce chicken breast has 24 grams of protein. They can tend to be a little dry. So for instance, our dish tonight is chicken thighs, and I would just have to look up to see what the actual protein content of that. And you can see a 3-ounce piece is about the size of a deck of cards. And we're gonna go in a little bit further into our packets, and it gives us examples of like real world items that we can go, oh, okay, it might not be exact, but you can go, oh, I know what a deck of cards, like the size of that. I can figure out that, okay, that's roughly around that size piece. But we can see like a cup of beans has 14 to 28 grams of protein, depending upon the type of bean that you have. And I think next week we're actually going to sample a nut-free trail mix as well in our unwrapped snacks. So that one will have a higher protein on there as well. Portion sizes, though, are really important. We are definitely living in a day and age where protein sizes are way bigger than that we need to consume, right? And not only that, but even our perception of protein sizes, of portion sizes, are inflated. Like we see in a commercial, like a kid pouring a bowl of cereal, and that bowl of cereal is full to the top. That's probably like 4 to 5 servings of cereal on there. So the idea that only 2/3 of a cup of dry cereal is a serving size in our minds is going to be really small, because we have been inundated with advertisement, or even when we go out to eat, like what we get in regards to our plates. And so we start to get trained to think that that is like the size that we're looking at. So, right, we have our whole grains is really just a slice of bread. A potato or a half a sweet potato counts as 1 whole serving of grains, right? Even vegetables, we think like we need to have a huge portion, and we really don't, right? A half a cup of like raw fruits or vegetables, like half a cup of broccoli is like maybe like 4 stalks, 4 like flowerets of, like, it's not a lot. So if we can get past our own perceptions of what a serving size should actually be, we find that we can actually consume more than we thought we could. On that, I think it's on the last page, there is a visual guide for you on your hand as to what maybe a size will roughly be. So like a size of a baseball is about 1 cup. So maybe a little bit bigger than maybe a little bigger than my fist, not much though, so not a softball, right? That deck of cards is usually gonna come up to that first or second set of your joints on your fingers down to just below the center of your palm, right, is 3 ounces. Like a half a cup is just a tennis ball. And if you have a dog, it makes it really easy, right? And I do like how they used a checkbook for 3 ounces, I think that might be, I might tell them that they might want to update that one, because I can guarantee you that at least my 20-year-old son, he does not own a checkbook at all, because everything is digital. He sends a digital check if he needs to. I rarely carry one, so like even I would have to like try to remember, well, how big would that checkbook be? So I know there's a lot, like all of us probably can visualize that, but I would venture to guess that there's a younger generation that is like, well, how big would that be?
Well, that's so much bigger than the deck of cards. Are you taking the thickness?
It is probably the thickness is an account for that as well. So right, that deck of cards is still going to be right like a 1/2 inch to 1 inch on there. So you want to get that like length and then that depth of that. Just going to peek on my thing here. All right, we got like 9 minutes, give or take. I got my handy thermometer here just in case. Healthy fats, though, is something that we really did talk about a lot, but we've never really gone super in depth in regards to healthy fats. Last week, we had discussed that it is recommended that we get 20 to 35% of our calories from these fats. And really finding out like one of the big ways that we get that is through cooking, right? The type of oil that we cook. I will say last week, I even talked about how I tend to use extra virgin olive oil. That is my usual cooking oil of choice. After kind of going through this, I found that maybe I would rather move to an avocado oil, which I did. I was able to get some in the store on there. One of the things that we want to keep aware of when we're using oil is their smoke point. And that is when right, you hit that right, it's just where the temperature is just below what we are, the cooking temperature, right? Or we want an oil that has a higher smoke point, I'm sorry, so that, so it won't smoke off as we are cooking. Because if we do that, it can break down the healthy oil and it can create free radicals, which is a chemical that gets produced naturally, but it's not good for like our DNA and our cells. So we want to choose an oil that has a higher smoke point than what we're cooking at so that we don't have that breakdown. And olive oil, right, is a really good oil, but it burns really easy. So it has a lower smoke point when we're frying stuff up, where avocado oil has a much higher smoke point. So I went to use avocado. I have not normally bought avocado oil because I was like, my olive oil is just fine. And Amy even talked about, like, I did not realize that it gives a more like neutral flavor. So it doesn't really overpower where olive oil does, right? And Amy uses it when she makes dishes, right? And she can confirm, at least on a personal note, that it works really nice.
Yeah, we do.
Yep. Yeah.
I like the taste better too.
Some of the things that we consider when we are using oil is that like virgin olive oil or virgin oil just means that there's less processing to it. So I guess the more virgin it is, so that extra virgin means that there is even less processing on there. So so when you purchase oils, you do want to try to get as many unrefined or virgin oils as you can, right? You can look at the different ways that they process it, right? There's a cold pressing that does not involve heat or chemical treatments. Otherwise, there's ones where they use friction and pressure, and that does get a high temperature on there. So it's just important to kind of understand your oils a little bit. And there's also in your packet, and if for some reason you just can't read it because some of the printing tends to get a little light because of the boxes, we can print these out in a different way for you. But here are some different oils and their cooking temperatures so that you can consider what you might want to use in regards to your oil. So you can see that extra virgin olive oil has a smoke point of 350 to 410, where my virgin avocado oil is at 375 and 400, but my normal olive oil has a lower temperature than that extra virgin on there. So I'm pretty close with my extra virgin, but I've actually been enjoying the avocado oil so far on there because I do like that. It doesn't necessarily overpower. There are also some oils to just try to avoid on there just because of they're high in the omega-6 fats that do increase like inflammation, those kind of things. So we're looking at like corn. The ones that we're going to see a lot here are going to be corn, soybean, and canola is what we'll see probably at Walmart for the most part. Protein is really easy to get to when we are looking at fish on there. Fish is a great source of protein. It also is a really good source of vitamin B as well as vitamin D. There are things we want to consider. The American Health Association does recommend at least 2 3.5-ounce servings of not fried fish. So maybe not necessarily our fish fry counting as this, of fish a week. You do want to be aware that some fish may contain more mercury or heavy metals than other fish do that they've just absorbed from the environment. And in our packet there, we actually have a list of some of the fish that are considered like on the better list. Wild caught fish are considered organic, right? Because they're out in the wild. We can't control their environment. Where like a farmed fish could have, right, they are fed. So sometimes they are given foods that just like kind of fatten them up, might change the color of their meat. It could also be where they're being farmed. They could have some runoff pollution or have very little room to swim. They could just be like, you know, one of those big like farm pools where the fish just kind of move so ever so much, but that is it. Very similar to like if you've ever seen any of like the mega chicken farms on there. That doesn't mean though that all farm raised fish are bad. And that's where if you get a chance to, you know, either research where you're buying from or talk to those who've raised their fish, you can find out that they could be very top quality and they could be raised in amazing conditions, which could offset. So you could have like where they won't be considered organic, but they could fall really close to that line about organic. There is a list, and I want to say it covers like 2 pages, of like your best choices that you can eat 2 to 3 servings a week of fish, maybe your like good choices, and then the ones to really avoid. Locally, we're pretty good, like the ones to avoid aren't local fish for us on there. So we're okay a little bit there. Like most of the time we aren't going to be necessarily buying those as a fresh fish here. The best choice list though, it has quite a long list on there. The ones that we expect to see that, right, there's salmon on that, like salmon is on towards the end of that list, scallops and shrimp and perch. I was just going to see. Yep, I was going to see if maybe we would luck out and walleye might be listed, but I don't see it on there. So I could always reach out and find out because I feel like that would be something very localized for us on there. So you have or lobster, you could treat yourself, right? And you can just tell yourself, I'm just eating what's off the best list, right? It is a good, healthy protein for me. So adding that fish offers a variety of where you're getting your protein from so that you do have it mixed up a little bit. It's not all chicken, it's not all turkey, not necessarily all like beans and cheeses, depending upon your diet. So it's nice that you get to mix it up a little on there. There is a section for you guys in regards to organic and conventional. We have talked a lot about like the fact of like what counts as organic. We have a picture just of a quick visual for you of what the Dirty Dozen is and the Clean 15. I'm just gonna let that go just a smidge longer, just a smidge. We're so close. And this just talks about the guidelines a little bit. We've talked about the guidelines last week and whatnot of like, if you're truly wanting to go organic, looking for that certification, what the USDA looks for when they're talking about organic. So they're looking at the soil, they're looking at how it's fertilized, the pest control, what type of seeds are used, and whether or not, for instance, it is genetically modified or not. Our packet, just like last week, does go through the Dirty Dozen again. And these are just fruits and vegetables that tend to use heavy pesticides. So they have could cause potential health risks on there. Is just that nature of it is very insect attracting. Where the Clean 15, right, that has very few insects that like to try to eat the items. So there isn't as much pesticides being used on those 15 items. So those are the ones we kind of want to kind of pull from our list. It doesn't mean that you can't, though, have a strawberry or blueberry. Just consider where they're being purchased from, and being grown from, where they're being purchased from, so that you can get that kind of information as well. We should not be scared of using herbs and spices. They are our friend. We can use salt and pepper on there, but a variety of spices is really nice. I made this dish pretty bland. It is just some salt and pepper, probably not even a lot of salt and pepper. I might have considered with the sweet potatoes adding some cinnamon to them before I cook them. Maybe let them marinate just a little bit in that cinnamon. Maybe I would use some garlic, with the broccoli, to add some additional flavor onto that. You can use fresh or dried herbs in there. So don't be scared to like mix it up a little. As I said, they are our friends. There is a section if you are interested in, especially if you're growing your own or you're buying them and you're worried that you're not going to use them fast enough, where you can go and how to chop them and how to freeze them so that you don't have necessarily that food waste that we might have, which is why I do, like, as I said, the frozen vegetables right now, just because it's just my husband and I, and we just really worry about like just throwing that all out. And what doesn't make a dinner, like a dinner party, than a little bit of alcohol? We all are generally aware that alcohol has addictive properties. There are health risks to it, so we do want to like limit our consumption on there. There are like some studies that say like having a glass of red wine can actually be beneficial. So, right, just check with your doctor in regards to where they think you should be at for your alcohol consumption. And this just kind of talks about this group of packet, just a little bit of like the health risks that can come about with heavy use of alcohol. So it's we want it, moderation is a good thing. And so examples of like one drink, like a beer would be 12 ounces, wine would be 5, maybe a distilled spirits would be 1.5 ounces. So I guess like just one old fashioned, not necessarily like a double, but that does like, but we are talking like, this is not like I'm out at my holiday party, right? And I'm only, right? You should drink how you are comfortable at your level. And then just if you are interested, there is a section in regards to if you are looking at using SNAP or WIC for your benefits on there. There are lots of programs that help, especially at farmers markets, help expand the access that those dollars will go towards like purchasing of healthy items. But our dish did beep, so I'm just going to kind of go over and I'm going to grab that, and I did bring my hot pads out. Fantastic. And we're going to see how this turned out. I'm going to mute the mic for a second because I'm going to ask Marietta a question. All right, we are going to take out our dish and we're just going to quick see. I think my chicken needs a little bit more time. It looks a little pale, a little bit on the, all right, there we go. There's a section that looks a little just rough there. Yep, we're only at 127. Wow, that oven is a little, 150, I should say that. Oh, that's done over there, but I don't know if that is. Ooh, we are close. So this is what it looks like, though, everyone online right now. We're not quite ready to be able to eat it because we don't want anyone to have salmonella. But it usually takes about, this dish is about 100 at either 400 to 450 or 425 for usually about 20 to 25 minutes in my standard oven. You can just sit it right there. So we're just going to let that cook just for a little bit longer. Those of you who are here can stay. We have another cooking program coming up like right away. We are going to be talking about historical cookbooks or cookbooks that have historical recipes. And then our chicken dish will be done as well. So we'll have some samples of our chicken dish. Marietta is going to be making a breakfast dish from hers. And then I have a fudge dish that I prepared for our Cook the Book. So I look forward to you guys joining us next week. We are going to be talking about snacks. It's our last 2 weeks. So I hope to see you guys here. And then good luck for this week. We're just going to continue to do what we did for breakfast and lunch. We are now adding dinner. And I have some extra shopping lists and meal planners if you guys want one. So thank you guys so much for coming, and I will see you guys next week.